Welcome friends. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about application development using PHP and MySQL. So we're going to start with MySQL, which is a database software. MySQL is a relational database management system. A relational database management system. So let's break down what these words represent. The first one is database. When we talk about database, we are looking at an organized collection of structured information or data typically stored electronically in a computer system. Then the word relational model refers to an organized data in one or more tables or relationships of columns and rows with a unique key identifying each row. So let's look at this table. This is a table that has data about entrepreneurs in different locations. So the first one here is, first thing you need to know here is a column heading. So we have ID, we have name, we have city, web, which of course is abbreviated for website, and the age. So the first record here is for John, and you can see that John is doing his business in Canada. This is his website, and that's his age. Then we also have Fred. Fred is in Abuja, and this is his website, and this is his age. So you notice something here. As you keep adding this column, there's a possibility that some other person will be the name John, and some other person also will have this be in the city in Canada. Some other person will have a website. Or use a website, gmail.com, or even this page. So the only record here, the only record that can distinguish each of these records that we have here is the ID column. The ID column here is having numbers 1, 2. So the next one will be 3 and 4 and 5. So we can take this ID column as our primary key column. What that means is that all the numbers that we will input here will not be repeated. If two records have the same ID number, then there will be a conflict. So choosing ID number in this case as our primary key simply means that all the records that are entered, all the numbers will not be repeated, and it will help us to identify each of those records. So that's how the relational that's one thing about a relational database. You have a unique identifier, which makes it possible to identify each of the columns. And when you are relating these tables, you can now relate multiple tables together using their unique identifier. So in that way, you can query across different tables to find out information that you're looking for. So the word MySQL can be broken down into My and SQL. SQL is an abbreviation for structured query language. So the word structured is still coming. When you hear structured, when something is structured, the opposite is unstructured. Structured means it's organized in a particular way that makes it possible for you to easily retrieve data. And the other word mine is referencing the co-founder's daughter. So the founder or the person that developed MySQL as a database software and named our daughter associated our daughter's name along with the database. So now data structure are specific ways of organizing data in a specialized format on the computer so that information can be organized, processed, stored, and retrieved quickly and efficiently. So where is MySQL used? Almost 100% of the websites that are hosted online comes with free MySQL database. So even the Joomla that we did, WordPress, and most of the big companies that have applications that we're using today use this MySQL, from Facebook to Twitter to a lot of other websites that we use. Especially social media platform uses MySQL as a database. So it's widely used for various applications, from small scale projects to large scale websites and enterprise level solutions. So even your e-commerce website also uses MySQL as a database software. So let me demonstrate how to use MySQL to syntax to create a table, to manipulate the table, or even insert records, update records. So let me show you how that works. So I'm now going to show you how to build your database and create and insert records into a table uh, using MySQL database software. So the first thing I will do will be to start up my XAMPP. So on my system, then I'll go to drive C, go to XAMPP, then I'll make sure that XAMPP is on. So you can see my XAMPP is already on. So here, the next thing I'm going to call up the MySQL database. So I'll go to the run button and I'll type CMD from the CMD environment. So from CMD, you can see here we have the part C:/user/developer. So I'll type CD enter. So it takes me back to the C command prompt. So what I want to do will be to go to where I have my SQL software that comes with my XAMPP. So I'm opening to it here so you can see. I just open to XAMPP. You see I have my SQL here. And from here, I will open to bin, but I'll open this through the command line. Then of course, I'll call up my SQL executable file. So here, I will use the command prompt to access that link. So what do I do? So I will type something like change directory, that is change directory to XAMPP. Change that directory is cd XAMPP. So now I've moved from C to XAMPP. It's like opening XAMPP. I'm just typing a command to do that. So I type cd XAMPP, I press enter. So again, I will move another step again, cd MySQL. So these folders are, my SQL folder is inside the XAMPP folder. So I'm pressing in. So you can see I've moved from C:/XAMPP to my SQL. Then while I'm at my SQL, I'll also type cd change directory to bin, bin. So I'm changing directory to bin. So bin is showing here. So the next thing I'm going to do will be to call up the MySQL console. So what do? I'll just type MySQL -u. The user is root, and the password -p is no password. So I'll leave that. Then -h is the host. What is this host? It's localhost. Another way to write localhost is to type the number 127.0.0.1. So let me tell you what I've written again. I type MySQL space -u. The u here represents the prefix for root, who has privilege over this MySQL console that you want to work with, root. So my -u root space -p. What is the password for root? By default, there's no password. So space -h. What is the host? Which host you want to access this MySQL console? Space. I'll type 127.0.0.1. Once I've done that, I'll press enter. The system is asking me here to type the password for root. By default, root doesn't have any password, so I'll press enter again. So it now takes me to the, so you can see from here you have the MariaDB, welcome to MariaDB monitor, and it goes down and you can see the MariaDB prompt is showing here. So from here, I can start creating my database. So if I want to create my database, I will just type the command create database. But before I do that, I will need to view all the databases that are available here. So I'll type show databases. Every command you type should end with a semicolon. I press enter. So the system is showing me all the databases that are already existing here. So you'll be wondering, where did I get all this thing from? What I'm getting here is what is found on where you are familiar with. If I type localhost/php myadmin, you will see that all what I've just opened are the databases here. And of course, we have my SQL here. So I could also, instead of using the command prompt, I could also run this command all from here. I will show you how that is done. So now that I've opened to the system and I've seen the databases that exist, so now I'm going to create my database. So I'm going to call my database Bix, like business, B-I-Z, Bix. So I'll type create database if not exist, B-I-Z, bis, end with a semicolon. Why am I saying this? I could have just said create database Bix and that will work. But here I just added another condition that if this database does not exist, then you can create it. But if it's already there, then you can change it. But let me just correct it to change it to the first point. So I'll type create database Bix. Create database Bix. So I will just end it with a semicolon and that has been created. But I can recall the last command that I used by pressing on my up arrow. So I have create database Bix. Then watch this again. I'm going to put in that conditional statement that I used, if not exists. So because of the fact that Bix is already created and is in existence, if I tell you to create this, if it does not exist, the system will tell me that it said 0 row. You can see here 1 row, 0 row. That means nothing was created here, and there's even a warning. So it means that this is already there. So I've created my database Bix, so I can check to find out whether Bix is there. I recall back my last command, show databases, and it lists all the database, and you can see Bix is appearing here. So if I also go to my PHP admin, you may not see it. If I refresh here, you'll see that Bix automatically comes in here. So basically what we're doing is using the command line to get this done. So I've just used the command create database Bix to create a new database. So the next thing, I also use the command show databases to view all the databases that are available on my system. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to start creating tables. So your table should be inside a database. Your table should be inside a database. So before you create a table, you have to tell the MySQL database that, look, I want to work on the database called Bix. So what do? I'll just type use Bix, semicolon. So the system has changed over to Bix. So you can see from here, the MariaDB was showing none before now, but it's now showing MariaDB Bix. So that means it's now pointing to Bix. So from here, I can now create my table. Which table do I want to create? Let me go back again to the note. The note will give me an idea of the database that I should create. Let me see, where was it? The last presentation that I did, let's pick up something from there. Look at this table here. This table has 5 columns. We have ID, name, city, web, age. So the columns are the ID column, the name column, the name column, the city column, the web column, and of course the age column. But this table also has 4 rows. So the rows are the horizontal while the columns are the vertical. So first row, it has 3 rows. Second row, and of course the third row. So, and of course, this information here are the data that are in each of the rows. So I'm going to recreate this table here using the command line. So how do I do that? The first thing I need to identify is I have seen that these are all my fields. So I have to identify these fields based on their data type. For example, under ID, ID takes only numbers. So the numbers here will have a data type integer. But in this case, integer will be abbreviated as int. Then, of course, we also have the other rows here that have other records inside them. But notice something, that name, city, and web all has what we call only letters or characters. So I could say something like that the other fields, column 2, 3, and 4, that is where I have name. So here I said ID has a data type. Let me put this on top. Data type. Data type basically talks about what kind of data will you accept for each of these column headings. So ID will have only numbers, and in this case, numbers here will be taken as integers, and we're going to abbreviate it as int. While city, so city has only characters. So I can choose to write characters, or I can use what is called variable characters. So variable characters is just a type of a character that has both letters and numbers. So most times this is mostly used. So this is abbreviated as varchar. So, and the web, for the web 2 will also have varchar. In this way, you are secured. In case maybe somebody is writing a name of a city that has a number and letters, then varchar will cover it up. Or if you're writing a website that has a combination of letters and number, then varchar will take it up. Then of course the last column H is only numbers, so we can say numbers, or we use integer as our data type. So the next thing you also have to look at is, you can also say, okay, now that we know the data type, what will be the length of the input or the data that you want to enter? So depending on the number, you could say, let's just have length 11. That means length 11 simply represents 11 spaces of numbers that you can have. If you have something like, let's say 3 spaces, 3 spaces simply means that you have just 3 lengths of digits that can be accommodated, and that could be something like 1000 or 9000 or 999, you know. Oh no, sorry, just 3 lengths. 999, or it could be, so it will start from, so in this case you can have something like, this will start from, if you like, 000 to 999. I think that will be the last set of numbers that you can have. So here, so for now I'm going to use 11 characters. So 11 characters. So, and the city, I could just put in anything, you know. You look at, okay, the words, what is the longest number of words that you can use for, that can describe a particular city? So you can choose something like 100 for now. Then the website too, what is the longest length of website you can have? I can use 100 to be on the safe side, but I know it's far lower than that. Then age most times is just 2 numbers or 3. So age for integer, I can use 3. So now that we've designed this, then we can use this information now to build our database the way we want it. So I will now move over to MySQL here, and from here I will start. Don't forget, I've said you should move over to beast. So I will start by creating. So you type create table users, you open the bracket, move to the next line. So the first field is ID. Data type is integer, length is let's take it as 11. Then you can say this will not be null, not null. It should be auto incremental, so I'll type auto increment. Then I want this to be my primary key. I've already explained what primary key is. Simply that constraint that you put on the column to ensure that it is not repeated. It is not repeated. So I'm moving to the next line. So the next field is name. Then name, I said it will be varchar, and the name I'm taking 100 here as its space. Then I'll just press comma. Then city, I'm giving it varchar. The length is also 100. It could be 50 or 100. Then of course the last one age, Age is an integer, and I'm taking length number 3, and then I'll conclude by closing the bracket. Don't forget, I started by, then I'll put a semicolon. Don't forget, I started by opening the bracket here, then I'm closing it. So you have to make sure that all the open brackets and the closed brackets are the same. So let's see what we have done. We started by typing create table users, open the bracket, then we have all our fields, ID, integer, length 11, not null. That means you should not take any null value or any empty value. Then it should be auto incremental. That means the system will automatically populate it for you. If the first record is 1, the second one is 2, then the other ones will come as 3, 4, 5, and the rest of them. And we're saying we're putting a condition here that this should be a primary key. What that simply means is that no two records will have the same number. And of course, we have name, then we have city, we have page. So now that we've recreated our table using this command, we can now press enter. So you can see the system has created the table and it's telling us that there are 0 rows inside this table. So the next thing I'm going to do will be to use SQL command to insert record into this table. So how do you do insert? So I type insert into the table name is users. Then I'll type bracket open. I'll call up all the fields: ID, name, city, web, age. So I'm bringing all these fields, values. This is just to guide me to know the number, to ensure that the number of records that I'm entering. So here I will leave the first one empty. Then I'll type the second one as the name as Mike, and the next one will be what is the name of the city. The city, from what we did, if I have to follow here, this name is John, then Canada. Okay, so I can do this. So I'll come back here and change this to John. Then I have Canada. Then the next one is the website is www.gmail.com. Close it. Then the last one, the age of that person is 20. I'll type 20 there, and I close the bracket and I close with a semicolon. So the system is telling me that ID, name. Okay, the system. Okay, here we did not include, when we're creating this table, we did not include web. It's telling me there is no web on the field. So I'm going to recall this command. Then I'll move down. Then I'll remove web. So while I was building that table, I mistakenly omitted web. So I could take it out from here, or I could alter the table and tell it to include web as one of the columns. So let me show you how that is done. So let's remove this command first. So I mistakenly forgot to include web. So I'll say alter table users add web. So web varchar length 100. So alter this table and add this column, add column web varchar 100. So I press enter. So the system has added that for me. So I can now recall my last entry that had web, and so here insert into users this. So I have the total number of fields now are ID, name, city, web, age, and that corresponds to one. See, let's count to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So corresponds to the number of entries that I have there, and it just presses star. The system is saying one row has been affected. So I'm going to do the second one. Then I'll now open the table to see. So the same thing here, insert into this, but this time around the values will change. So this one is 2 Fred Abuja CNN 35. So I'll just come here and type the name Fred Abuja CNN CNN, and the age is 35. So I'll press enter. So now I've entered two records to this table. So I can tell it to select to open this table. So how do you open the table? I say select everything from users. That's how to do it, and you end with a semicolon, and the system opens and tells me that this is what I have. So you can see my first record, and I can see the second record, and of course it's similar to what we have here. So that's how it's done. Then from there I can further still manipulate this. So this star that I use here simply means bring everything that you have on this table. Or I can also recall this and say, okay, select just specific things like maybe name, city from table. So when you do that, it will just filter out that and brings it down for you. Then I can also move ahead to tell it to update this value, assuming that there was a mistake in the second record, that instead of the age being 35 is something else. So I can write something like update table, update users, set age, it's equal to 40, where ID is equal to 2. So look at that command. Update users. This users is the table name. Set age is equal to 40, where ID is equal to 2. So the system will go to where ID is equal to 2 and look at age. Whatever it is, they will change it to 40. So once I do that, the system is telling me one has been. Then if I recall and tell it to show me this table again, you can see 40 and now appears here. Then of course, I can also delete any of the records that I don't want. So assuming I want to take off record number 2, so I'll just type delete from users where ID is equal to 2. So I'll end with my semicolon. That's done. So if I recall this and tell it to open it, you can see I have only one record now. Now you see I'm working as a root user, so but I can create a new user and give it permission over this table. So I can type something like grant. So assuming that I want to give permission to somebody else, I can say grant select. That means the person can select. Insert, you can insert record. Update, can update record. Delete. On bees dot users who John is a new person at localhost identified by Morrison. Morrison now becomes his password. So let's see what you've done. So this is granting permission. I am the root user. Assuming I'm not always around and I want to give permission to some other person that I trust to do things. So I can decide to give the person only the select permission or insert permission. But in this time, I'm giving him 4 key privileges here: select, insert, update, and delete. So select means you can open the table and view it. Insert means you can enter a record into it. Update means that the person can update whatever is on the system there on this this is the table name dot users. This is the database name dot users. Users is a table name to the new user that I want to give privilege to is called John at localhost identified by Morrison. Morrison is his password. So when I press enter, that has been done. So that's basically how this works. So having said this, so we can also go here and view this to see what just happens. So if I refresh this, you see that bees is here. Immediately I open to bees, you can see that there's a table called users. We didn't create it, so all what we created from, what I mean is we didn't create from the PHP environment. So all what we created here automatically appears here. So you can see it here. And of course, you can further manipulate this. So you can decide to create a table straight from here. If I go to server 123 and I type SQL, all those commands will work. For example, if I want to open that table, I'll type select everything from. So first thing I'll need to do before I start this will be to click on the database that I want to work with, and I'll click on users. So once I click on users, I can go to SQL. Then I can say select everything from users, select everything from users and end with semicolon. And I'll come here and tell it to go. And when you click go, the system will bring up this. So you can also use this environment to do what you're doing. So, but this is a handy environment for you to work with, and you can use it to create and manipulate the database the way you want it. Now that we've created John and we've given John the privilege, so I'm going to show you how to log into John to have access to that database. With the privilege given, I'll type MySQL -u John -p. Then here I will mention this. Then I will now type -h 127.0.0.1. So here MySQL-u is a username -p, the password request for it. Then this is a database -h is the host, which is 127.0.0.1. So I press enter. So it's asking me to type the password now. So I'll enter the password Morrison. Then I press enter. So now it has opened. As you can see now, the current database is this. So it's opening here with John's privilege. So I'll type show databases. Let's see the databases that John can see. So it's telling me you can see those three. Then let's say show tables. So show tables in the bees database. So it's telling me that there is users. Then let's try some of those commands we gave. We said select everything from users. I can see that. So all the privileges that we use for John will apply, and the ones that we do not specifically give will not apply. So that's how to manipulate and work on your data using MySQL command line. Thank you for listening.